This video is not one that I've really wanted to make, but with the recent news about 3265 disbanding and 1960 also disbanding and going under new leadership, I think it's time we talk about why people are quitting Rise of Kingdoms. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another Rise of Kingdoms gameplay episode from your very own Shappy Gaming. And today, we are talking about a not so fun topic, but one I think we need to bring up so Lilith can make some changes to hopefully save Rise of Kingdoms and prevent people from leaving. Because one of the biggest risks that we see to this game is attrition. So why are people actually leaving Rise of Kingdoms? Well, I've been playing this game since 2019, and a lot has changed over that time. If you guys are new to the channel, welcome. My name's Shappy. I'm a sponsored Rise of Kingdoms content creator, and I've seen a lot change since I first started playing. When I first started playing, it was pretty low key. You'd hop in, you'd gather resources that you need, people would crowdfund, if one person gathered a ton of resources, other people would help, and battles were pretty constrained. You would not have a lot of big blowout crazy battles. But things have changed. Things have changed a lot. You see a lot more spending in Rise of Kingdoms these days. When I first started, there wasn't all that much spending because there wasn't all that much things to spend on. Now you could get major differentiation by spending. And you didn't need to spend as much time in the game. But there were elements even then that still caused this burnout that we're seeing a little bit more prevalently today. And there's also cost. Crystal tech is a big cost. The 30-day gem supply, which is also going to be required for the new barbarian auto barbs, is gonna have a cost. Daily bundles have a cost. Even the bare minimum that we talk about for Rise of Kingdoms, right? Buy the Vanquisher bundle, buy Rider of History, has a cost. And I think over time, that does start to drive a lot of players away, especially as we start looking at some of these newer players that are coming in from KVK 1 and KVK 2 and then Light versus Dark, and then they get hit with this bill. And it's like, if you want to stay, this is what you have to do. And last but not least is power creep. Now, over the last year, power creep has been, I think, very well kept in check. Up until the release of these archers, you didn't have to max the new commanders. They gave you a little bit of differentiation if you did, but you didn't have to max those commanders. So let's start with Burnout. This is a great example. So everyone has made a video talking about 1960 disbanding. At this point, we all know Cortex is stepping in, Plato is staying. Maybe 1960 is not totally cooked, which honestly, I think is a good thing. But what Seawill really calls out here is burnout, right? When you've been playing Rise of Kingdoms for so long, and when you're leading a kingdom, there are so many commitments that you have to make to this game that it takes you away from real life, right? We lost real friends. We've had to be on fighting KVKs instead of spending time with our families. We've had to invest in this game. And over time, that becomes really, really hard for even normal players like me. But it's really hard for leaders. And Rise of Kingdoms requires a lot of leadership management. You need a big R4 team to go through and manage. And in top tier kingdoms like 1960, you've got to be planning for hours and hours and hours. Think about it. You have to make maps for KVK. You have to make maps and plans for Ark of Osiris. You have to actively manage everyone in the kingdom. You have to make sure you have titles sorted out. Some people do bots, some people have title givers. It varies, but you have to figure that out. When KVK comes, you have to have someone go through and manage all of the stats and then figure out how to combine all of the different farm stats. And there are different things that I've tried to make that easier. Hero Scrolls is one of them. I got to give a shout out to Duke for building that out. But that's still a lot of management. And we're touching a little bit on the next part. Those services for titles and for stats, etc., they all come with a cost. So leadership has to pay for that too. So there's a lot that Rise of Kingdoms requires of people. Normal people like me, because you have to go through and you have to gather a lot, because the resources do not actually add up effectively to the combat in KVK. Healing costs are way too high if you ask me. So you have to gather a lot, or you have to buy resources. But if you buy resources, which is against terms of service, so I wouldn't recommend it, but if you do it, you risk getting your account banned, which is all that time and money down the drain, and it has a cost. So you can't really escape these three things. And so you have to gather a lot. I have 5 farms gathering right now. I've been gathering for the last probably 7 days at least, and I think I've got 100 million resources per resource on each farm right now, and I have 5 farms. So it's going to take me a fair bit of time to get some real numbers of resources there, and that's not even gold. I definitely don't have that much gold. So you have to be on managing those things. And it's not even the constant being on, right? It's the crap, I have to take 10 minutes right now to go log into those farms, send out gatherers, and then make sure I have a notification set so when they come back, I can do it again. Or, oh, I have to send in a march to slow build a fort or a flag, and then I'll have to deal with that later, right? And I'll have to get that notification. These things add up. These things add up. They take time. They take time from you. They take time from me. They take time from everyone. And candidly, there are other games that I've played that don't require nearly as much time. I made a video on the Civilization Eras and Allies. That game was so fun because you just come in, you spend a fair bit of time up front, but after that, it's just maintenance, baby. Same thing with Age of Empires Mobile. Age of Empires Mobile has its problems, but they cracked the code for fighting and for resource consumption. Because in Age of Empires Mobile, KVK is restricted to like a period of 6 days maybe. And in those 6 days, it may actually be a full week, but in those 6 days, there is a very finite amount of time that you can fight that other kingdom. And if you're not online then you missed it. And if everyone in your kingdom is online, great. You get rewards even though you weren't able to make it because real life comes first. Rise of Kingdoms is so different from a lot of these other games. Even the Supercell games that I know a lot of people play don't require the same time commitment as Rise of Kingdoms. And that's why a lot of people quit, right? And this actually gets even more challenging when we talk about some of the mundane activities that you have to do, right? Golden Kingdom, you should be doing that event. Soroli, you should be doing that event too. There are lots of events that take time to do, and you need to do them in order to get these great rewards. But they're not always fun. And so I wish Lilith could fix that and listen to the community when we talk about things that are fun. Shadow Legion is the best event in Rise of Kingdoms, in my opinion, and it's been here since day one. I would love to see some more events like that bring people together. Silk Road is fine. It's kind of annoying, but the premise is nice, right? Karuak bosses, great rewards for the limited amount of time spent. There are other events like that, but some of them just feel really mundane. And the last one, and I'm going to call it out here because I'm just reading it, Rise of Kingdoms today doesn't get that same feeling anymore. With battle reports being visible on trading ratio, half the people on Discord are pilots who care about trades. Now you cannot find that unspoken bond and trust any longer. I do think that pilots are a big problem, and I do think they lead to the burnout. Because in a world where pilots don't exist, you play when you can. And if you can't play, then, oh well, right? If your kingdom requires you to play, then you go somewhere else. But in the world of pilots now, you have to give away access of your account to someone else, which also then leads to more burnout because you feel like you have to do that or you have to be on all the time, meaning late nights, things like that. It's crazy. And 3265 is no different. 3265 is disbanding also because of the fact that we have Burnout, right? People are leaving because they just can't do it anymore, right? People have real lives. They have things that they're trying to deal with in their lives. And as a consequence of this game, they can't do both, which I think is a real shame. So the burnout is a big issue in Rise of Kingdoms, and I'd love to see Lilith do something about it. I don't know what it is, but something. The next one's cost. Cost is an issue. Cost has been an issue since the introduction of Crystal Tech KVK. And having just played Heroic Anthem, I played the entire Heroic Anthem with the new Crystal Tech, all that. I did pretty well. I will say it has increased the balance 100,000%. But for most players, it has not decreased the cost. For whales, you don't need to spend as much. But for the average low to mid spender, you need to spend just as much money as you did before. So here's my tech. This is after KVK. This is the furthest I got. We have 10 days left. Kingsland is over. This is the furthest I got. And I can show you guys exactly how much money I spent. I came in here. I bought the Crystal Mega Pack. $101 right there. And then I bought the $5. And I probably had a group of these because I'm a mid spender. But I bought the $5 bundle for the daily crystals, the 60K. And then I got a donation from John Wicked. Thank you again, buddy. This is like your third call out in my videos. I got a $15 donation that was able to get me the Crystal Quest bundle. Having just played KVK, I believe you need to do that in order to get your tech to a decent place, even with the new tech. If you don't have pre-defer, you're at a disadvantage. You can maybe skip this and not do Crystal Quest, which honestly I was going to do until I got that donation. But you have to spend at least $106 every 3 months to play this game. At least. Maybe your kingdom does KVK every 4 months instead of every 3. On average, it's going to cost this much. For most people, that is extraordinarily cost prohibitive. And if you're in KVK 1, 2, and 3, you don't even know that this is coming until it does. But Shappy, we can be free to play or low spend, and I can just buy the daily and do the 60 gems a day. Maybe. But you won't trade as well. And if you don't trade as well, you probably won't get an Otark, or you're going to have to sacrifice your time. Which goes back to the first point of it takes way too much time. So there's not an easy solution here. I would say Lilith should just get rid of Crystal Tech and have an option for the KVK for someone. And that way I can keep playing even if I don't want to spend this kind of money right now. And it's frustrating for me because if we do go in game, most players have to buy this bundle. This one, the 30-day gem supply. I'm going to claim it now. 650 gems a day. You have to buy this. That's $10 a month just to play. People say, oh, the battle pass, right? That is the battle pass model. I am paying Lilith $120 a year just to play the game. That's not even including this, Lucerne Scrolls. If you're not buying Lucerne Scrolls, you're at a major disadvantage because you get so many armament chests here. And candidly, you need armament chests in order to be competitive and get some of these armaments. Because again, you can't get these ones without the pity, right? You need most of these through pity. You can get banner through the shop, but again, the only way you're going to get that is by spending a ton of these, or you have to win KVKs, which gets you that. But Olympia's Chorus Master or Honors the Pantheon, guess what? You just got to play the volume game. So cost is a big problem in Rise of Kingdoms. It's a big problem, and I think it drives a lot of players away. And maybe people are like, okay, you know what, first, maybe I'll just spend this much money on it. But compared to other games, and in my opinion, compared to other mobile games, Rise of Kingdoms is expensive. It is expensive. Even Age of Empires Mobile, which people gave me a lot of grief for saying how expensive it was. Candidly, I spent $200 up front, and I was just as competitive as everyone else in the mid game. You can do well by your commander investments, and you don't actually get all that much benefit from spending. And there's nothing like what we're talking about with Crystal Tech, where it's $120 every 3 months. It's crazy. And it drives a lot of people away from the game. And let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I'm not trying to rant. I'm just talking about why I think people are leaving. I don't want people to leave. Rise of Kingdoms has an amazing community, but I think these things make it challenging for a lot of players. And the last one is power creep. Power creep has been a problem, and then it wasn't, and now it is again. What is power creep? Power creep is when Lilith intentionally makes it so in order to be competitive, you have to spend an excess amount of money to get to that point. And that is by introducing new mechanics, new functionalities, or new commanders that then cause you to spend. A perfect example of this is Delta Formation, right? Everyone had really good setups for a wedge and maybe even arch, and then they introduced Delta Formation to play on combo attack damage. I don't know a low spender or free to play with a good Delta Formation setup. Now, Lilith did say, oh, well, we'll give you conversion stones. Well, I'm in KVK right now. This is the main way you get conversion stones. There are 5 conversion stones here, and then there are 5 lower down. I think you can get just about 10 conversion stones in total from each KVK. Now, that sounds great, right? Well, KVK is only every 3 months, and that assumes that you get the stats to actually get those 10 conversion stones. And that's great and all. Except, if you actually want to convert a single legendary armament, a single one, let's say I'm going to convert this to Delta Formation because that's what we're talking about, it costs 10 conversion stones. So you can have 1 KVK and still not be able to afford this. And if you can't afford it, then great, you've converted 1 legendary armament. But, and this goes back to power creep, if you're a whale, there is a bundle that you can buy that refreshes, I think it's every 30 days, Recast and Reforge, which lets you buy more conversion stones. So that in itself lends itself directly to power creep. But that's not all. Lilith has also introduced a couple of new things where they said if you have a crit piece of equipment, you can dismantle it and get your equipment back, your materials. But if it's not crit, you can't get that materials back. But at the same time, they have changed things, right? Hydra's bow now costs the same as the normal archer equipment to forge and has better benefits. And they've introduced new accessories, the saddle and the hilt, that if you're using smite or combo attack damage commanders, you probably want, but you can't get them unless you're a whale. If you're a whale, you can dismantle, you can do whatever, you're fine, right? It's not that big of a deal. You probably already have all the equipment you need. You've probably already gone through and done all of your iconic tiers, so you're fine. And the next thing that's going to happen is going to be more broken commanders. Over the last year, Lilith did an amazing job with commanders. You didn't have to max them if you didn't want to. This cycle, you already have QSH and you already have Shapur. Shapur is the rally meta, and QSH is by far the best commander in the game. I made a short recently about Luce. People clearly didn't get the joke, but okay. QSH is by far the best commander in the game, and you have to max him. Bai Chi, I would argue you probably also had to max. Sure, if you had William Wallace, it's not that big of an upgrade, but Bai Chi was my second best commander this KVK. So let's say you had to max those. I had 1,800 heads saved up, and now I only have 640, which means I'm going to have to choose. Either I can get a leadership commander, either I can get the next cavalry, or I could get the next infantry, but I can't get all 3 and I can't get 2 of them, which as a player who's running 2 unit types is going to be a big problem because they're going to make it so both of them are meta. Now, if you're a whale and you're spending a lot and you're investing, you may be able to actually do this because you probably had a good store of gold heads already, so you're fine. But that power creep is going to become a big problem. I hope that the next infantry is a flop. Hopefully the next infantry sucks and the next cavalry is great and I can bench Nevsky. But these changes that Lilith is making, they're also talking about adding more formations, some that, enable more skill damage or benefit that even further. These changes are introducing more and more power creep, and this is going to become a problem that's going to cause people to quit because the time that they are putting into the game is not being rewarded. I know this wasn't the most fun video, but I do think it started a conversation that I hope a lot of people are interested in or engaged in. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this, do hit that subscribe button right over there, bottom right-hand corner, and hit the bell so you get notified when new episodes come out. Thank you all. Chappy out.